All right, guys. So I just wanted to hop on and give you guys a couple of David updates. I know everybody has been waiting for new updates and official things on David. There's not really been as much going on. There's not really been much new evidence about the situation. You know, I did do a full breakdown over on my main channel, and there were a few new interesting facts in there that some people did think were really interesting. But I'm going to get to some new stuff. But I just want to let you guys know. Okay, I just want to let you guys know. Okay, this thing is still ongoing. We're still waiting for an arrest. You know, everybody in the community, in the research community, in the community that are following this whole very sad affair, we're all digging for details. We're all on the lookout for new information, new updates, all of those kind of things, okay? And look, I've defended myself a bunch, okay? I think it's okay to talk about this. I feel like we're all just waiting for justice for Celeste. We're all just waiting to find out what's going on. We're all waiting for updates, and we're all just trying to preserve all of the information that has come out since this situation went down. So I made that full-length video over on my main channel. You know, some people weren't feeling it. Some people were feeling like, you know, it's overload of information. I wanted to just make a more concise video that just really focused on the facts in a kind of documentary format. That was my goal with that. And a lot of people did appreciate the new information from the video. They're saying on the Celeste Reddit, Trapler Ross's video had a lot of new videos. They said it's a great video that provides a good timeline of the event. Okay, ironically, okay, people are like, you like what? I've already watched 20 hours of him reiterating the same things and reading comments. Tell me what was new. They're saying all he does now is read posts from this sub. But if you go and watch that video is actually mainly focused on interesting facts and pieces of information that you might not have heard. People are saying it's more like his usual documentaries as opposed to his recent vids. And look, I don't want to get too into it in this video, but people are saying it's actually a pretty good video there, especially the part about Celeste joking about David R-wording her early in the relationship is eye-opening. Thanks for sharing this video. I was giving up on Ross, but I guess I won them back. People are saying she wasn't talking about herself. They were talking about Epstein. We're actually talking about something different. So go and check out the video, okay? There's actually other stuff in there that you might find interesting. You might find as an eye-opening situation, okay? And it's not just a Reddit post, okay? That video has got a lot more detailed research. It's a documentary timeline from beginning to end. I did credit users, but there was stuff people aren't aware of. There's new stuff, new information in that video. So go and check that out if you want to get new information. You want to just catch up on the timeline in one kind of straight through breakdown, okay? But what I'm here to share with you today is a couple of new interesting developments that have been going on publicly, and they've been reported by the mainstream news, the mainstream media, okay? You know, don't hate on me. I'm just reporting what the mainstream media are reporting, and this is in the Daily Mail. Let me just fix this real quick. So there'd been a lot of talk about Celeste's funeral when it was taking place. There was rumors that it had been delayed, but no doubt this was something that the family wanted to keep secret. There's so much public interest in this story. There's conspiracy theories. There's people hating on the family, which from the very start I've not condoned. I don't feel like the family deserve any kind of vitriol in this situation. But the funeral did go ahead, and it was apparently held in secret amid criticism over the investigation. So I don't know if they've got some footage here of that. Just for the record, all right, I want to point out, for all the people saying, oh, you're milking this is the Daily Mail running an advert for, what is this, Gigster, over the footage of the funeral, okay? So that's what these other reporters are on. They're putting Gigster ads over the footage of the funeral, okay? That just is what it is, okay? That's journalism for you, okay? That's reporting, that's journalism, that's the news media industry. But I just wanted to highlight that, okay? We're going to skip ad. I'm going to see what was going on. So they have recorded some exclusive footage, seemingly, of the funeral taking place. And this is just kind of like, it's got very sad music over it. I don't know if we need all of that. But the funeral did take place. You know, it seemingly took place in private. I feel like the family probably have been getting harassed to an insane degree. But they were able to lay Celeste to rest in this ceremony that was carried out in California. It looks like quite a small ceremony. It looks quite private and small. You know, probably just very, very close family members that would have been invited there for that. And it's another advertisement for you guys, just so you know how the news media is working this thing. But anyway, let's read the article and find out some backstory about the funeral. It says, Celeste Rivas, the teen girl who was found dead in a Tesla belonging to David, was laid to rest on Monday. Her casket was being seen carried by mourners at the funeral service, which was held in a white tent on the cemetery lawn in photos obtained by the Daily Mail. It took place surrounded by family and friends at the Queen of Heaven Cemetery and Mortuary in Rowland Heights, California. The family appeared to be trying to keep the funeral as secret as possible by shielding it from view in the tent. Mourners dressed in all black and were seen with pained expressions and faces lowered as they carried Celeste's gleaming white casket while dressed in somber all black. Several funeral attendees were also seen carrying large flower bouquets to be left by the gravesite. And then this kind of recaps some of the information. There's some more pictures of the service there. And then this is just recapping a lot of information that we already knew, but they've got photos of the cemetery. You know, they've got the tent. They've got all of the information. It says here, the family appear to be trying to keep the funeral secret as possible by shielding it from view in the tent. And it's really sad that this is the, you know, what they've had to do in this instance. And, you know, I personally feel like this situation, you know, it's, if you want to say that the media have kind of like blown this situation, I don't want to say out of proportion, because I think it is proportional to how messed up this situation is. But really, this is all due to the fact that David is such a big star. I think if any big name celebrity that was doing 5 billion streams on their music is found with a dead body in the trunk of their car, you know, some people just don't want to hear, you know, but that's what it was. You were found with a deceased person in your car. I think any singer, rapper, anybody of this level of stature with 30 million monthly listeners, if Gunna got found with a deceased person in his car, the media firestorm would have been perhaps even bigger than this. Okay, but I think it's David's music that appeared to refer to so much dark, violent imagery that really took this up to 11. But really, this is about the celebrity around David. I don't feel like it's even fair to blame the media or the Daily Mail. A lot of people disagree with the Daily Mail, but the reason there's so much attention around this story is because how much of a big star David was. But you know, they've released the photos from the funeral. The Daily Mail clearly got wind of where this was all going down. And they kind of explained everything that's going on. They had the hearse there that carried the casket to the cemetery, and they had, you know, the flower arrangements. They had pictures. They had pictures of absolutely everything, man. The Daily Mail, they're getting up close and personal with this stuff. You know, whether or not you guys agree with that, they are reporting very, very up to date and very in detail about everything. Now, another thing that's come out that's new in this situation, that people are kind of prying over, is these reports of a SWAT raid at David's house. His family home was raided several times. The police were apparently called there numerous times. Apparently it was bogus, you know, swatting. People were basically maliciously calling the police to try and mess with him. And again, even for everything that we know about David, and people are not liking him and they're wishing the worst for David. Once again, I wouldn't condone swatting. I wouldn't condone harassment. At the end of the day, we're still waiting for the police to do their due diligence. Anything like this just really just gets in the way of the investigation and wastes very valuable police time. But what's interesting is it seems that TMZ have actually got their hands on the recording of the 911 call, and they're claiming that the swatting caller was using a voice changer to report this bogus shooting. Okay, so let's hear this and hear actually what the person sounded like when they called in these bogus reports.
Waller County Sheriff's Office, is Amber. Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, Waller County Sheriff's Office.
Hello, I need help.
Okay, what's going on? Where are you at?
My address is...
Okay, what's going on?
I heard, some, gunshots.
Okay. How close to your residence were they?
They were, right outside my house, and I think someone's dead.
Okay, what's your name?
Say it again?
What's your name? Okay, what's a good phone number for you, sir? Okay, and why do you believe that somebody's dead?
I just heard, a loud scream, and there was, gunshots.
Oh, scream. Okay. After shots. Okay, but you haven't saw or heard anything else after that?
I heard a scream.
Was it a male or a female scream, do you think?
It was like a female.
Female? Okay, we're going to go ahead and get deputies headed out that way. Just confirming you're at...
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to get them sent that way, okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
So this troll called this call in to mess with David and to put his family in danger, really. And look, all right, the public opinion is not feeling David right now, but this isn't right, okay? It's not fair, it's not right as far as wasting police time. It's putting people in danger. His family are innocent in this. Sometimes people swap properties like this and they come in hot and they shoot people and the police end up killing innocent people. So we cannot condone this. We don't support this, all right? We're not rocking with any swatting, any fake phone calls that put people in danger. What's really interesting about all of this is it says, in hindsight, it sounds like a clear prank, but in the moment, law enforcement was dispatched and they swarmed the home where David's parents lived. bro, I just can't condone it. You know, it's as much as we all want to get to the bottom of this case, this is just super not cool. And I think it's interesting that the audio has come out. You know, I wanted to, when I first pressed play, I thought we was going to hear a kid. I thought we was going to hear like a very immature child. It does sound like a grown man. You know, they're using a voice changer. Maybe they made their voice sound deeper than it actually is, but it sounds like a grown man, and this really isn't becoming of a grown man. And it really wouldn't surprise me if the police actually crack down on this and arrest the person that made this SWAT call. It's not too tough. You know, people are hating on the police, saying it's taken them too long to solve this case. But hey, it's not too tough for them to work out, even if you're using a different number, voice changer. They can work all that stuff out. And I wouldn't be surprised if the person that called this in is actually in big trouble with the authorities. So there's been very little new information, but I do want to bring your attention just to a couple of Reddit posts that I've saw over the past couple of days that I did think were interesting. A lot of people have been saying this. I saw a lot of comments about this on the documentary that I made about David. And a lot of people were saying that they feel like, based on everything that they learned about David's career, that Celeste really was his muse and inspired a lot of his music and artistic output. Now, check this out. It says, "It all makes sense now. It really hit me that Celeste was David's muse. Since he was homeschooled and never experienced love, heartbreak, or struggle firsthand, he lived through her. She opened up to him and he turned her pain into music. His mother even points it out after hearing the lyrics. Celeste's life growing up in low-income housing, dealing with the real-life struggles, became the emotional backbone of his songs. They probably formed a deep but unhealthy bond, built on shared inexperience and emotional dependency. In a way, his entire discography is like a documentary of her life, and sadly, it seems like it all ended in tragedy. Maybe one final argument pushed him over the edge and there was no coming back. R.I.P. Celeste." People are saying, "I don't like how you describe a femicide. It's like you almost justify him." I didn't get that from that. Girls have also experienced the pandemic, but they don't feel pushed by something their kid, boyfriend said, didn't say, didn't do to murder them. Okay, now look, I don't think they're sympathizing. I think they're more just explaining how, you know, David's obsession with this person, or a lot of the things that he put into his music, they seem to correlate to these new things that are coming out now that we know allegedly what was going on behind the scenes. It is pretty scary. It is pretty interesting, and I think that if we find out that there's more information, if this does end up going to trial and we find out more information about their relationship, I think that's going to be very telling. It said, what makes artists artists is that they're overly sensitive. They feel everything more deeply. Everyone goes through heartbreak or pain, but artists turn those emotions into something tangible, something that resonates with millions. That's what makes their work powerful. But regardless of whether she was a muse or not, being involved with someone who's still a child crosses every possible line. There's nothing romantic or tragically artistic about that. It's disturbing. There's a difference between drawing inspiration from someone's story and exploiting or crossing boundaries. At that point, it's not sensitivity or creativity anymore, it's manipulation, and there's a level of psychopathy in that. Now, the OP does justify it. He says, look, let me be clear, I'm not justifying what he did. I'm definitely not saying it was right. What happened was illegal, unethical, and deeply disturbing. No matter how you frame it, but if we're trying to understand why it happened, not to excuse it, but to make some kind of sense of it, then we have to look at the mindset of certain artists. Artists often process the world through emotion first and logic second. They're hypersensitive, driven by feeling, and sometimes blur the lines between experience, inspiration, and obsession. That doesn't make their actions acceptable, not even close, but it does explain how someone could twist artistic intent into something dangerous. There's a fine line between creating art from pain and using art to justify causing it. Once that line is crossed, it stops being about expression and starts being about control. They're getting a little back and forth. He says, I understand the urge to contextualize, but linking predatory behavior to artistic sensitivity risks aestheticizing abuse. Now, that's a whole bunch of word salad. I don't think what they're doing, I don't think they're saying artistic sensitivity aestheticizes abuse at all. I don't think that's what they're going for here. Saying countless artists process pain without crossing legal or moral lines. Well, it might be the case that in this case they did, and we're not justifying it, we're just observing it, okay? But it says what happened wasn't the collapse of art and obsession, it was the collapse of empathy and restraint. Once you invoke the artist's mindset to rationalize harm, you turn psychology into apology, and that's a dangerous slope. I don't think it was rationalizing, okay? But anyway, the OP says, I get where you're coming from, and I definitely wasn't trying to excuse anything. I still stand by what I said, though. I think it's possible to explore the mindset without justifying the harm, even if that line makes people uncomfortable. Now, look, this ends up being a long back and forth. I don't think they were justifying it, but I do think it's just an observation that it appears that there was something going on with this girl. He was obsessed with heartbreak and not being together and longing for this person and them leaving and coming back, all these references to running away and waiting and all these things. I think these things do potentially give an indication into what was going on. I don't think that's justifying it, but I do think you could say that this person was obsessed and a lot of the music came out of that obsession. People are saying that would mean it was premeditated and he was planning to kill her the whole time. He was just waiting for the right time to end it. Even if he doesn't admit it to himself, he consciously, bro was definitely fantasizing to kill her. He did say he was working on a plot for a manga series. Itami was just his first character he was introducing. He had 3 more he wanted to do. I guess we'll never know. Okay. But unfortunately, there still really hasn't been any update from the authorities. People feel like nothing is going to happen. This is a post on the Celeste subreddit. It says, I have a slight feeling nothing is going to happen. Like, obviously, he's going to get locked up eventually, but there's a part of me that sees how they handled the Diddy situation that makes me feel like they're just going to let him go or say he's fine. Anything to make them money, I don't know. There hasn't been any update, and I'm honestly surprised that they haven't just brought him into question already. People are saying, don't let the Diddy... okay, this is... I don't know if we're going to get into all of this. This is too much, okay? They're saying, don't let the Diddy situation throw you. It's like comparing apples to oranges. I agree with that. I don't think it's got anything to do with the Diddy case. People are saying, even if he OJs himself out of this situation, his career is over. No one will ever want to work with a PDF, let alone an alleged PDF murderer. The entertainment industry will ostracize him and nobody will want to collab or work with him, especially not girl groups like Cat's Eye. None of his Korean ex-friends won't either. They're super strict about anything regarding breaking any kind of laws in South Korea. Can you imagine if that Crocs deal went through? Celeste had Hello Kitty Crocs. No, he's a PDF whose life is over, no matter what. All right, the level David is at and the level that Diddy is at is laughably apart. Comparing them is like comparing hamburger meat to Wagyu. And that connection is, that comparison is a little bit insensitive on itself. But some people, there's another post that I thought was interesting, okay? Some people are saying... These comments do get deleted a lot, but a lot of people were basically saying that it seemed like Celeste was actually raised by her aunts and uncles, and people are saying that's why a lot of the missing persons dates were so different, because really it was the aunts and uncles that were actually a lot more present in her life. That's what a lot of people are saying. You know, there were reports that maybe the father was out of the country. We've seen in that TMZ video where she's arguing the neighbors that actually seemingly her father was still around. But people are saying that's partly why all the missing reports of when people last saw Celeste were all different dates, because she had a lot of family that took care of her and she stayed with them all at different times. I don't think she had a single place or felt like home for her. I read that Celeste wasn't exactly running away when she went to live with David. She intended to return and visit her family, and to be honest, that's exactly what she was doing frequently, so it all makes sense. So something I wanted to touch on, man, shout out to Bruce Rivers, man, Criminal Lawyer Reacts. He just did a video updating everybody on this situation. And this video is called Why Hasn't David Been Arrested? And there were some interesting parts in this, and apparently he actually mentioned some of my coverage in here. So let me just pick out some choice parts of this, and we'll react to what Bruce Rivers said.
The question everyone has is, why has David not been arrested yet? And the reason David hasn't been arrested yet is because they don't have a cause of death. They don't. I mean, if you remember the Casey Anthony case, they found that body. Didn't they find it far away from the home, wrapped in a blanket and duct tape? Aside from her being her mother and being responsible for her care, they didn't have a whole lot of evidence that she did anything. You know, and if you remember, she lied all kinds of ways to the cops, but they just didn't have anything linking her to the homicide. This could be the case with David. It's very similar in that they find a body with someone that he had a connection with, but they gotta link it up. You know, they gotta make him responsible. So unless somebody comes forward as an eyewitness to something, or there's some footage of something, or there's some other way that they can link him up to her homicide, you know, like let's say I think the quickest way to do that would be if they found some text messages where he says, you know, we're getting drugs or whatever. And then somehow somebody comes forward and says, yeah, I saw him give her drugs and she overdosed. Or maybe he choked her out. You know, maybe there was a domestic dispute. I mean, his songs are dark as shit, aren't they? So, and just want to give a shout out to Trap Lord Ross. He kind of watched one of my videos and he gave us some good accolades. And he does some good work there. So give him some love. And Mr. Ross, Mr. Trap Lord Ross, if you want to collab, let me know. I'm all for it.
Damn. Okay. Hell yeah, man. Shout out to Bruce Rivers, man. Definitely would want to collaborate with him. I'm gonna get in touch with him, man. I just followed him on Instagram earlier because people were saying he was trying to reach out to me. Definitely down to do a collab with Bruce Rivers. You know, he's a legendary mainstay in this kind of hip hop you know, true crime hip hop space. He's reacted to a lot of the big hip hop legal cases. So I'd love to collab with Bruce, man. Shout out to Bruce. That's sick, actually. So blessed to hear that. But you know, he's basically explaining, you know, a lot of the same stuff that we've already heard. But you know, the toxicology report's still not come back. They probably can't prove that what the cause of death is at this point. And you know, Bruce is a real lawyer. He's a real criminal lawyer. He's actually tried real cases related to all of this stuff, and he's telling it how it is. And he's going to break it down later on in this video, exactly why David hasn't been arrested, and you know exactly what the situation is with that. But yeah, I think a lot of people are disappointed to hear, you know, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. It might be impossible. The police might actually simply not be able to prove the cause of death, and that is going to be a big problem. Okay, but let's jump ahead and see what else Bruce had to say. Really interested to hear his perspective on this one.
Robert, real men wear pink. So David, as you know, he wasn't around, oddly enough, when his car was found. So David, he's a singer. His Tesla had the body of Celeste Rivas in it. Her body has badly decomposed, which means it had been there a little while. And some people have been doing some internet sleuthing. I don't internet sleuth. I just tell you what's going on. Celeste would have just turned 15. 15 years old. You know where you should be at 11 o'clock if you're 15 years old on any given night at home in bed. You know, I mean, you should be bitching to your parents that you can't get out of the house. And then you go to bed, and else in case you wake up alive next morning in your bed. But Celeste would have been 15 and David's 20. So that's a little bit of an age gap.
So he's going to kind of break down some of the facts of the case, and he's going to react to some of the posts and the news articles. A lot of this stuff we probably might have already covered on this channel, but I'm going to find any parts where he's talking specifically more about David not being arrested, and we'll jump into that. Let me jump ahead. All right, let me leave a quick comment for Bruce before we dig further into this, man. What should I say to him? All right. Appreciate you for the shout. I've been a fan for years. Let's definitely link up and do a deep dive. Big love. All right. We're locked in with Bruce, man. Who wants to see the Bruce Rivers collab, man? We're going to make that happen. So he breaks down a lot of theories and a lot of clips in this video. So, you know, we're not going to react to the whole thing because I haven't quite got time for all of that. And it's probably some stuff that you've already seen. You know, it's really great to hear Bruce give his twist. But for me, I'm really here trying to hear about what he thinks about why David hasn't been arrested, okay? So we're going to now hear him give a little bit more facts about the matter. He's going to open up a little bit more for the next kind of 4 or 5 minutes, and he's going to break down exactly why he believes David hasn't been arrested and some of the theories behind it. So I'm super glued. I'm super locked in. I'm really trying to figure out what he thinks about this, because this is somebody whose opinion I think is gold in this context.
The big question everyone has is, why has David not been arrested yet? And the reason David hasn't been arrested yet is because they don't have a cause of death. They don't. I mean, if you remember the Casey Anthony case, they found that body.
So he's just recapping what he said at the start of the clip, but he's going to explain in more detail. So he's going to finish what we saw already at the start, and then he's going to go into more detail.
And they find it far away from the home, wrapped in a blanket and duct tape. Aside from her being her mother and being responsible for her care, they didn't have a whole lot of evidence that she did anything. You know, and if you remember, she lied all kinds of ways to the cops, but they just didn't have anything linking her to the homicide. This could be the case with David. It's very similar in that they find a body with someone that he had a connection with, but they gotta link it up. You know, they gotta make him responsible. So unless somebody comes forward as an eyewitness to something, or there's some footage of something, or there's some other way that they can link him up to her homicide, you know, like let's say I think the quickest way to do that would be if they found some text messages where he says, you know, we're getting drugs or whatever, and then somehow somebody comes forward and says, yeah, I saw him give her drugs and she overdosed, or maybe he choked her out. You know.
Now, what's interesting, okay, because a lot of people have talked about this overdose theory. You know, if the toxicology report comes back and says that, you know, she had drugs in her system, a fatal amount of drugs in her system, could David get off on the overdose theory? Now, that's partly true. But also, if they can prove that David gave this underage girl drugs, he's going to be culpable in some type of way. It's going to be potentially... Okay, it might not be full-blown murder, but there are other things that could be going on. If they could prove that he was actually giving drugs and alcohol to this young girl and that might have led to her death, that's going to be tough to prove. But if they can prove it, there's other things that are on the table that the police might use. So I do think this is an interesting point. Just as much as the drug theory, the overdose theory might absolve David of his sins, it also might end up to come back to bite him if there's evidence that he actually was involved and it was his actions that led to that happening. But that's going to be even tougher to prove.
And maybe there was a domestic dispute. I mean, his songs are fucking dark as shit, aren't they? We're all speculating here. But what we're not speculating about is they haven't arrested David because they don't have any evidence against him quite yet. They're building their case. So that's our little David Part 2 episode. It tells you a little bit more that we knew before, but we're still in the dark on cause of death with Miss Rivas Hernandez. I just don't understand, going after young girls. If you are a young person and you're experiencing trouble at home, it's so fucking difficult to figure out what to do, isn't it? Go to a relative, go to the cops, don't go on the street. So, I mean, my son Michael, he took off, I can't tell you how many times. All of a sudden I get a fucking ping on my phone. He's in Florida. I'm in Minnesota. And it's like, what the fuck are you doing there? Oh, I'm sorry, we know, and then it was Nebraska, and then it was Colorado. And it's like, dude, you got a nice bed. You got 3 hot meals or as many meals as you want. I mean, we got baseball coming up. It was just very difficult, when you deal with that. So my heart goes out to any parents that are dealing with a child who doesn't want to stay at home. And this is just even more tragic because, it resulted in somebody's death. So we'll see you next time here in Criminal Lawyer Reacts. Make sure you subscribe, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, sign up for Patreon.
So shout out to Bruce Rivers, man. I thought there might have been a little bit more analysis there. But he was given a lot of value, providing some of his personal experience. Now, if you guys know Bruce Rivers' story, his son Michael was a big part of, how he essentially built his channel. And, his son had some issues with substances. As I just said, he would experience his son just kind of disappearing, going off, popping up at these other places. And he had some sympathy with what Celeste family was going through because, this is maybe a slightly more extreme scenario with a younger girl. But, he can sympathize with that. And, if anybody knows the story that everything that happened, Bruce's son passed away. And that was something that really kind of, really broke the hearts of a lot of people that follow him and support him. And he's somebody that I've always really respected and supported. So I've got a lot of admiration for him. I think he's a really strong guy. I love to see him dropping videos and just continuing this amazing career that he started out with his son. And I'm super proud of him for all of the reporting that he does on just all of these different cases. So massive shout out to Bruce, man. Hopefully we can get a collaboration done soon. And I think me and him together would probably be a pretty good duo because he's going to have the legal side covered. I'm going to have the social media deep dive stuff covered. I could probably show him some posts that he hasn't seen before. And I feel like we would come together and do a really good collab, man. But look, I'm just trying to keep you guys updated on any of these new updates. So when it comes to this David situation, there's really not too much new stuff going on. I think it is important that we kind of keep Celeste's name alive. We keep this story running. Some people are trying to get rid of this story. Some people are... I'm seeing a lot of very suspicious posts on Instagram saying David has been cleared. He's been not named as a subject. I'm curious to know who's pushing for those posts to be put up because they're not really saying anything. They're kind of twisting what the LAPD has put out in their statement saying that right now we can't really name anybody as a suspect. But then people are kind of manipulating the public and putting up these posts to almost make it seem like David's been cleared in this situation, which is not the case. So if I find anything else interesting, I will be sure to keep you guys updated. I've done a whole lot of updates on the Lil Durk stuff that's been going on today. That's been absolutely wild. I'm just following the stories, okay? People might want to say, oh, you're milking the Lil Durk situation. I'm just making videos about what's going on, okay? And the David situation, there's not been too many new updates. So I'm giving you Lil Durk updates. I'm giving you Young Thug updates. If there's anything else you guys want me to cover, let me know down below. I'm going to go into a few different lanes soon. I've got a few different ideas, different topics, and different areas that I want to get into. But hey, I'm just one man. I've only got so much time in the day. So look, stay locked in. I'm going to have more updates for you guys. I appreciate everybody following. I appreciate everybody supporting. People that are putting positive comments, even people that are putting negative comments. Look, I can take the criticism and I'm happy to debate and share my perspective with you guys. And for anybody that disagrees with me, I think let's keep it a healthy conversation and really just keep giving the people what they want, which is essentially more discourse, more conversations, more, updates and discussions about what's going on so that we can all try and make sense of this just crazy world that we're all living in, man, because it is scary out there. This has been a scary story, and even for Bruce, I think these things do hit close to home. Anybody that's got young girls in their family or dependents, it definitely is chilling, and I think it is important to keep this story alive and get to the bottom of it. I think the police are trying to get to the bottom of it. We're trying to get to the bottom of it. We're trying to make sense of it, and that just is what it is. So I'll keep you guys updated. I'll come back with some more videos for you guys tomorrow. I'm going to chill now for the rest of the evening, and I will let you guys know as soon as something happens. If something crazy happens, I'm gonna jump out of bed and come and update you guys, because that's what I was put here to do, man. All right. I'm here to keep you guys informed and report on what's going on as a journalist. So appreciate you guys tapping in, man. See you in the next video. I'm out of here.